Good day, everyone. I am very happy to talk to you today about the English language imperialism. I've divided our presentation into five sections, consisting of the title, defining linguistic and imperialism, digging on what truly is linguistic imperialism, what are the forces behind the spread of English, and the references used. We do hope that at the end of this presentation, you can unlock the reasons behind English language imperialism. Before anything else, let us unlock these two words. Let's have a look at linguistics. Linguistics is the scientific study of language. It involves an analysis of language form, language meaning, and language in context, as well as an analysis of the social, cultural, historical, and political factors that influence language. On the other hand, imperialism is the state policy, practice, or advocacy of extending power and dominion, especially by direct territorial acquisition or by gaining political and economic control of other territories and people. According to Galtung, imperialism is a type of relationship whereby one society or collective in more general terms can dominate another, and which manifests itself in a variety of ways economically, politically, militarily, culturally, and social.
Linguistic imperialism is the imposition of one language on speakers of other languages. It is also known as linguistic nationalism, linguistic dominance, and language imperialism. In our time, the global expansion of English has often been cited as the primary example of linguistic imperialism. The term originated in the 1930s as part of a critique of basic English and was reintroduced by linguist Robert Phillips in his monograph Linguistic Imperialism.
Hello guys, I'm Jeff. So there are two things that I will discuss here through my discussion. First, I'm going to discuss what really is linguistic imperialism and what are the implications of linguistic imperialism. So, the global spread of the English language can be seen as linked to a linguistic imperialism, in particular where English becomes dominant at the expense of indigenous languages. The spread of English may marginalize other languages since English can be a gatekeeper to education, employment, business opportunities, and popular culture. Moreover, linguistic imperialism is a form of linguicism which benefits and grants power to the dominating or oppressing language, in this context the English language and its speakers. As summarized by linguists Heath Rose and John Konama, Dr. Phillips argues that the defining characteristics of linguistic imperialism are as a form of linguicism which manifests in favoring the dominant language over another along similar lines as racism and sexism. Second, as a structurally manifested idea where more resources and infrastructure are given to the dominant language, i.e., when you use English, it is very favorable for business process outsourcing companies to hire you because you have great mastery over the English language. Like, for example, you need to apply as a call center agent or being an English as a second language teacher, for example, because you are fluent in the English language, and this gives many job opportunities, for an instance. Third, as being ideological, in that it encourages beliefs that the dominant language form is more prestigious than others. These ideas are hegemonic and internalized and naturalized as being normal. Here in the Philippines, for example, we treat individuals who spoke English fluently as intelligent compared to those who couldn't speak fluently. I think that this is much more of a discriminatory action rather than a measure of intelligence. So, in this point, English has been used for ideology that the dominant language or form or English is more prestigious than others, or our native language, for example, or Filipino, for an instance. Fourth, as intertwined with the same structure as imperialism in culture, education, media, and politics. In these aspects, we use English for communicating or answering school subjects. We use English or participating in contests. We use English. So, Fifth, as having an exploitative essence which causes injustice and inequality between those who use the dominant language and those who do not. Let's go back to the third instance wherein we think that those who speak English language fluently are much more intelligent compared to those who cannot speak English fluently. In this instance, English became a measure of intelligence. Now, as having a subtractive influence on the other language, in that learning the dominant language is at the expense of others. And last, as being contested and resisted because of these factors. In this instance, we use the English language as a measure of our intelligence, but also the emergence of new forms of word Englishes with new rhetorical styles has implications for language acquisition and language teaching. For example, in the Philippines, we use Philippine English. In Australian context, they use Australian English, for example. So, in conclusion, linguistic imperialism is an ever-present threat arising from the global spread of English, even when English is welcomed as a lingua franca. Phillipson's working definition of linguistic imperialism is that the dominance of English is asserted and maintained by the establishment and continuous reconstitution of structural and cultural inequalities between English and other languages. So that's it for my discussion. Thank you very much.
In 1992, a book appeared in the field of applied linguistics that presented English language teachers with a highly challenging and even shocking proposition. The author of the book is Robert Phillips. He argued that the global teaching of English was an act of linguistic imperialism. Since the 18th century, Phillipson argues that the spread of English has accompanied the political and economic intentions of English-speaking nations to conquer other countries. He claims this endangers their cultural ideals, their ways of life, and their indigenous languages. He believed that English language teaching and its major agencies, such as the British Council, have been implicated in perpetuating myths about the significance and necessity of learning English and in ensuring that English has outstripped the teaching of other languages worldwide. Phillipson calls for radical change in language policy to redress the balance and to promote multilingualism that reflects the more natural state of language use around the world. So, one of the major arguments in his linguistic imperialism was that the spread of English, much of which had occurred through its prominence in the global language education, and has served to undermine the rights of other languages and to marginalize the opportunities that should exist for widespread multilingual education. So, Robert Phillips said arguments have also provoked a number of criticisms, among which are making teachers feel unnecessarily guilty about teaching English, and also adopting a patronizing attitude towards developing countries, by assuming that they are incapable of making their own decisions about language choice. It has also been pointed out that a language cannot, in itself, be imperialistic. Moving forward, we are going to tackle what are the forces behind the spread of English. Is the dominance of English online a threat? So, the spread of English across the globe from the 17th century onwards, and the English began to expand their language over the world. It is due to such important factors as the power of the British Empire, the importance in the Industrial Revolution taking place in England for the first time, or the supremacy of America in all over the world. Moreover, we all know that English has become a global language in the last 50 years, being the official language of the international and multinational companies and industries, and the language of internet. It is important to have in mind how and why English has spread across the globe the way it has. Globalization of English its effect on cultural identity, the globalization of English language can be understood in various aspects. For example, as an instrument for economic success or the creator of new inequality class, a tool for cross-cultural communication and awareness, and as a passing phase of lingua franca, according to Johnson 2009.
American economic superiority and political leadership. Although Britain had been the greatest political, economic, and industrial power in the world in 18th century, by the end of 19th and early 20th century, United States of America emerged as an economic and political superpower. During this time, the countries in the world began to come together in international organizations, and they need to be able to communicate. However, it was very expensive to run multilingual operations, so they decided that English would be the language used in their international interactions. Moreover, the League of Nations was created after the World War I, but then it was replaced by the United Nations, which ended up in the New York. Thus, the world focus shifted to the United States. The influence of United States combined in the economic and political factors and the huge size of its population. The United States have 70% of all native speakers of English in the world. Industrial Revolution. Britain was the leader of the Industrial Revolution, and large-scale manufacturing and production machinery were just some of the major technological advancements being pioneered there. Countries which needed this new industrial knowledge could access it via the medium of English, something which made powerful again the language internationally. American economic superiority and political leadership. Although Britain had been the greatest political, economic, and industrial power in the world in 18th century, by the end of 19th and early 20th century, United States of America emerged as an economic and political superpower. During this time, the countries in the world began to come together in international organizations, and they need to be able to communicate. However, it was very expensive to run multilingual operations, so they decided that English would be the language used in their international interactions. Moreover, the League of Nations was created after the World War I, but then it was replaced by the United Nations, which ended up in the New York. Thus, the world focus shifted to the United States. The influence of United States combined in the economic and political factors and the huge size of its population. The United States have 70% of all native speakers of English in the world.
The fourth one is the American technology leadership. After World War II, and particularly in the 1980s and 1990s, the computer revolution began all over the world. It was due to the American technology and the American know-how. So it is logical that the language of these computers is English. The main reason why it is like this is the fact that although it could be designed with languages of one own country, this process is very expensive.
So here are the other factors of English language imperialism. The first one is the advertising. As the international market grew, the media spread to all parts of the world and became one of the most noticeable global manifestations of English language use. So, advertising has been a way to spread the use of English language because it is the common way or common channel for the people to understand each other. Next one is broadcasting. Britain was the pioneer in the use of telegraph, and all communications were made in English, having being necessary that all telegraph operators spoke English. So it was one of the most important facts in the spread of English throughout the world. Next is the motion pictures. The new technologies altered the way of public entertainment, and it also serves as a thrust of the English language. The development of the cinema was made initially by France and England, but the years during the World War I supposed a kind of blockage of cinema, and then American began to dominate it. Moreover, when the sound was added to the films, it was spoken English because which came to the movies, and although the film industry was developed also in other countries, it is still English language that has been dominant. Next is the popular music. The other important entertainment technology was the recording industry, and also here the English language had the dominance. All the major recording companies in popular music had English language origins, and when popular music arrived, it was in English scene mostly. Next is the international travel and safety. The medium in transportation and accommodation is English. Equally, English instructions about safety on international flights and sailings and indications about emergency procedures are in English. It has become the international language or the air speak. The language of international aircraft control emerged after World War II, and it was decided that English would be the international language of aviation. So, lastly is the education. Internationally, areas such as science and technology have the medium of English language to spread over the world their ideas. It is the main reason why many countries have adopted English as the chief foreign languages in school. It is obvious that people all over the world would have to know English if they are students, as most of the important words in the field of education are written in English. The spread of English causes language change, often to the extent that indigenous languages are killed. However, the dominance of English can also provoke a resurgence of interest in local languages. A feature of English that makes it different compared with all other languages is its global spread, said by David Crystal. So here are the references for this PowerPoint, and that would be all. Thank you and God bless.